Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds never expected that dragging Candace Owens into their messy lawsuit would backfire so spectacularly. It all started innocently enough, or at least, that's how it seemed on the surface. Blake and Ryan, amidst their ongoing legal battle, were trying to maintain control over the narrative, one that painted them as the victims in a war of words, a battle for their privacy, and the preservation of their public image. But when Candace Owens found herself entangled in their case, the Hollywood power couple likely had no idea what they were unleashing. Candace woke up one morning, like any other day, expecting the usual grind of taking down hypocrisy and exposing the inconsistencies in public figures. But then, out of nowhere, she found herself named in a legal filing from Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, who seemed to have dragged her name into their legal mess unprovoked. The reason? Simply Candace Owens doing what she always does, telling the truth. To say that Candace wasn't intimidated by being dragged into this high-profile case would be an understatement. In fact, she was actually thrilled. The moment she saw her name in a legal document, she laughed, almost celebrating the fact that she had gotten under their skin so effectively. Candace wasn't just some random internet personality to be bullied or silenced. No, she's a woman who built her career by calling out hypocrisy, and she wasn't about to let Blake and Ryan get away with their carefully curated narrative. Blake had tried to flip the script, accusing Candace of exposing secrets she wanted buried. But Candace, she wasn't just calling out the nonsense. She was digging into it, unearthing receipts, and exposing the Hollywood couple's inconsistencies for everyone to see. It wasn't long before Candace roasted Blake, calling the whole ordeal the best Christmas gift ever. And why not? If you're going to be dragged into a lawsuit, you might as well enjoy the chaos, right? Now I'm in the lawsuit, Candace said, almost gleefully. Mom, I made it. This wasn't just a joke. Candace was embracing the drama. She was practically relishing the fact that, in a world where so many celebrities try to manipulate the media and control their own narrative, she had become the one to expose the cracks in that system. I might as well retire now, she joked, acknowledging that this level of drama was a career-defining moment. In a bizarre twist, Blake and Ryan's legal team actually referenced one of Candace's tweets in their court filings. That's right, the same Candace Owens they were desperately trying to silence was now so important in their eyes that they had to acknowledge her in their legal documents. The tweet was a simple one, but it was a perfect summation of the situation. And yet, rather than ignoring her, they responded. They quoted her tweet, further proving just how much under their skin Candace had gotten. But why were Blake and Ryan so pressed about Candace Owens of all people? She wasn't even directly involved in the lawsuit. She had no stakes in the legal battle itself. She wasn't a witness, nor had she been part of any of the legal drama. Still, they couldn't let it go. They decided to try and smear her, framing her as part of a media conspiracy. Blake's team tried to convince everyone that Candace Owens was somehow orchestrating an attack against them with Perez Hilton, as if Candace, a political commentator, and Perez Hilton, a celebrity gossip blogger, were working together to bring down a Hollywood power couple. It was laughable. Candace wasn't about to let them get away with that either. She shut down their accusations with the kind of fire you might expect from someone who had been in the game of truth-telling for years. She laughed in their faces, mocking the absurd idea that she was somehow connected to the media storm they were trying to create. I'm not his long-lost cousin, Candace quipped sarcastically, as she continued to dismantle their lies and manipulation. The whole thing was starting to look like a desperate attempt by Blake and Ryan to shift the blame, divert attention from the real issues at hand, and control the narrative. But Candace Owens wasn't just taking potshots. She was exposing the contradictions in Blake and Ryan's legal maneuvers. They were asking for a protective order to keep certain documents confidential, a common request in high-profile cases. But Blake's team wasn't just asking for a standard protective order. They were pushing for a modified version that included an attorney's eyes only AO clause, which would keep certain evidence away from even the defendant in the case, an unprecedented move in this kind of lawsuit. What was their excuse? They claimed it was to protect third parties, specifically Taylor Swift, whose private messages might be exposed during the case. But the problem with that excuse was that Taylor Swift wasn't even involved in the lawsuit. So why mention her at all? Candace saw right through this. She pointed out how Blake's team had been leaking private information to the press when it suited them, but now, When it was their own words and actions on the line, they were suddenly pleading for privacy. Blake's hypocrisy couldn't have been more glaring. The Hollywood elite had been caught in a lie, and Candace Owens wasn't about to let them hide behind it. And that's exactly what Candace did. She didn't just call out the hypocrisy, she exposed the entire charade. She revealed that this wasn't about privacy. It wasn't about protecting innocent people. It wasn't even about justice. It was about control. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds wanted to dictate the narrative, to decide what information the public would see, and to suppress anything that didn't fit their image. In fact, Candace argued, this was the true nature of their legal battle. They were using their wealth, their influence, and their legal team to make sure that only their version of events would ever be shared with the public. As the case unfolded, Blake's legal team tried to shift the focus to Candace, hoping that by pointing the finger at her, they could distract from the growing inconsistencies in their own case. But all they managed to do was put a spotlight on their own desperation. The fact that they were so rattled by one tweet from Candace Owens was proof enough that they had no control over the narrative anymore. Blake's PR team made an attempt to frame her as the helpless victim, but the public wasn't buying it. People saw right through the performance. On social media, hashtags like #FakeLively and #CryingRyan started trending, as people began to realize that what was really happening was a calculated power grab. Ryan Reynolds, instead of playing the devoted husband, had gone on national television to mock the lawsuit in a comedy routine. His attempt to downplay the gravity of the situation, while simultaneously claiming it was so serious that they needed protective orders, didn't sit well with the public. Fans quickly turned on him, calling out his hypocrisy for treating something so traumatizing as a punchline. And the entire time, Candace Owens was there, taking down the fake victimhood narrative with a few well-timed words. She wasn't going to let them walk away from this, and she certainly wasn't going to let them manipulate the media. The truth was too important, and Candace was the only one willing to expose it. In the end, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds learned a painful lesson. You can't control the truth. Candace Owens didn't just call out their hypocrisy, she tore their entire narrative apart, showing the world that what was happening wasn't about justice or feminism, it was about power, manipulation, and a desperate attempt to silence anyone who dared to challenge their carefully constructed victim act. And while they tried to make Candace the scapegoat, it was clear to everyone that the real issue was much deeper than they wanted to admit. Candace didn't back down. She didn't get intimidated. She didn't let them silence her. And now, she was in the fight for the long haul, ready to expose the truth, no matter how hard they tried to bury it.
For more updates on this crazy saga,